Hello everybody and welcome to this midweek video. My name is Martin and I'm an Inkscape developer and I develop features and fixes for everyday Inkscape users. In these videos I give an update about what I've been up to, and you'll notice that I'm releasing this video late. Yeah, my plan was to release a video on Saturday, but I've been really busy with a bunch of real life stuff and also with Inkscape stuff. So what's been going on? So as you know, I've been doing the PDF work and it was basically done. It was basically mostly completed. It was just a specific tests failing for context fill and context stroke, which are these like little quirky things in SVG2 that allow clones and markers, those little arrows that are on lines, to inherit the styles of either the fill and stroke alternatively from their parent objects, which are defined in the SVG spec. Now, the tests failing is one thing, but the problem is that my code, the way that I've written it, was kind of resistant to being fixed in the kinds of ways that the context fill and context stroke wanted it to be. So I ended up spending a lot of time refactoring the code, and in fact, I basically did all of the things necessary. I wrote notes, I went on long walks, bike rides, talked to people about it, tried to find some new brains that might be able to loosen ideas about how to tackle the problems, and ended up rewriting parts of the code, basically refactoring the PDF output about 3 times, and ended up pretty much scrapping 2 of them entirely, which does make me sad, to have to not use all of that work. But it turns out that the Inkscape itself has issues with context fill and context stroke, so I was able to create some new issues about Inkscape's own internal rendering. It turns out that we do not have a very concrete plan in terms of how context fill and context stroke are dealt with inside of our own codebase, and so it is very difficult for an extension, PDF output, WMF output, whatever, to actually get the values necessary at rendering time, which is key because these values kind of change depending upon what is rendering at what time, which is what makes them tricky. It's not such a straightforward situation as just CSS inheritance, where you could use existing libraries to basically help you do that work. So we have a situation where inside of Inkscape's codebase, there's about 5 different implementations of context tracking. All of them broken in different ways, obviously. Support for clones with inheritance kind of worked, but was broken in the way inheritance worked. Markers were actually functioning, and that was one of the tests that was failing. But obviously it failed in my PDF output, which was annoying. But it was also broken in some other subtle ways, which was difficult to to break apart, simply because the implementation for markers was a completely distinct implementation than the one for clones, which is just crazy, to be fair. To have multiple different implementations for the same logic means that now your code is way more complicated than it needs to be. So me and Tav actually sat down and we worked through a bunch of the problems, mostly just trying to understand Inkscape's existing code base. And you can tell probably from this rambling story just how frustrating it has been over the past 3 weeks to try and narrow it down and figure out what's going on. Between me and Tav, we've managed to come up with some both fixes for Inkscape itself. These are rendering fixes. And also I've managed to fix the problems in the PDF output, as well as expanding a lot of the tests so that they're more compliant with how SVG functions. I think that with the rendering fixes and the PDF output fixes, we'll actually be able to offer context fill and context stroke options within the fill and stroke dialog. I think that this will enable some really interesting things to happen with clones and symbols. So if you're a person that makes use of symbols in Inkscape, this might be interesting functionality for you, since you can reuse context fill and context stroke paints at any time. They don't have to be fill to fill, stroke to stroke. You can fill with a stroke color and stroke with a fill color, and it doesn't have to be direct inheritance, right? You can skip over objects and go into groups and things, which is what makes it complicated. But also, I hope in the future it'll be what makes it interesting for people that create templates and things for others. Okay, so I'm making this update because I felt bad about not making you guys a video. Also, I obviously need to continue getting support from you guys too. So I want to be upfront and say your support is very welcome, and thank you very much for continuing to help me make Inkscape. And yeah, so let's talk about some other things, the other things that are going on in Inkscape. We've been talking about how to organize ourselves better, especially in Europe. We don't know whether we should create a European organization or not, and whether we have the people necessary to do it. I'm in the United States. That puts me at a disadvantage because I'm not in the right place to be able to fulfill that role of being the sort of director necessary to make that happen. But talks are going to continue. We're going to do more discovery and see if there are the people necessary to have the kind of organization in Europe that would really benefit Inkscape, and also put it on a surer footing when it comes to hiring developers. We've also been having website issues. Those continue, mostly AI companies that have chosen to ignore robots.txt and started to just abuse our web services. Chat continues with a replacement chat from Rocket Chat with Matrix. We've been watching very carefully what's been going on with the Oregon State University and their open source labs, since Inkscape's website is hosted by the OSU OSL, and hopefully they'll find the funding necessary to continue. But we'll be watching that very carefully. And yeah, so there's lots of administrative stuff going on in the background. The release has been planned. The 1.4.2 release has been planned. It's somewhat more delayed than I would have liked it to have been, but the translations and Vector's team wanted more time. And so Mark, who is the release manager, gave them more time until the end of April. So nowish, hopefully. Let's find out. Anyway, that's all of the news that I have for you in the Inkscape world. Thank you for watching these update videos, and fingers crossed I will see you in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you.